Welcome to the Employment Services Show podcast. I am your host, Rana Kodahi, and today I have a very special guest with me, Tony Cavallaro. He is the Regional Manager for APM, which is Australia's largest provider of disability employment services. Tony worked his way up the ranks in employment services pretty quickly, which is pretty impressive. He started out as an employment consultant in 2014 at APM, then team leader, learning development coordinator, and now he's the regional manager of South Australia and the Northern Territory. So he's got a lot of experience in different parts of employment services business. Tony is highly knowledgeable about what it takes to help people with a disability back into work in regional areas, and he's passionate about making a difference for both his clients and his team. So welcome, Tony. I'm very happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Rana.
So, Tony, I'm going to get straight into it. So just in a 2-minute intro, can you just tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So as you mentioned, I am a regional manager for APM Employment Services, where we deliver the Disability Employment Services contract. As you mentioned, APM is one of Australia's largest providers of disability employment services. We operate across 92 employment service areas or regions nationally, which is great.
Wow.
Over 400 offices too. So we are a for-profit organisation, but profit for purpose. And we really do pride ourselves on the results that we've been able to achieve for our customers. So 25 years in operation this year. So it's a bit of a celebration for us. And we've been able to get over 1 million people into work, which is great.
Wow. That's amazing. So over 1 million people into work, and you've been around for 25 years from what I've heard.
We have been. So we also deliver the Job Active contract and the NDIS contract as well. And as well as that, we've got a few other arms to our business, including assessment services and aged care services. But really, disability employment services is the heart of our business. It's the contract we've provided for many years, and we pride ourselves on the results we've been able to achieve.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, Tony. And I just want to know, I'm always interested about how people get started in this industry. How did you get started in this industry?
Definitely. Well, look, I think like many of your listeners, you could probably say I fell into the industry. So I spent a large portion of my career working within hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
And look, hospitality is one of those industries that I personally owe so much to because it gave me that toolbox of skills that I still use today. From there, I made the decision to do a bit of extra study while I was working across a couple cafes, and I was able to use this space to transition into a leadership position within hospitality. And look, it was through that experience that I developed my love and passion for mentoring and developing staff. So I gained some qualifications. I worked as a qualified trainer and assessor for a couple of privately owned RTOs. And it was in one of my last contracts, as a trainer, that I had my first taste of employment services. So we were provided the opportunity to deliver pre-employment programs for an organisation called Renew USA. They had a program called the Works program, and that program was developed to be delivered to support training and employment initiatives for local people in South Australia. So specifically targeted to people that had a passion for customer service and food production. And the program was inclusively open to participants of employment services. So, the aim of the program was to help them transition into open employment placements as well. So, we had some great results in that program. I think over 80% of our participants moved into employment with some of the larger retail organisations here in South Australia. And employment services intrigued me. I was quite fortunate then to move into an employment consultant role. I didn't have much industry experience. I had no industry experience. So someone gave me a go, which was great. And I started to, provide that end-to-end case management for my caseload. Moved into a PPS role, which I really enjoyed. Probably one of the most, intriguing things for me is post-placement support, that maintenance phase of the program. And then I was able to move through a few roles into learning and development, and now find myself, in the role of regional manager. But, it's incredible. 5 years later, I'm still here, still passionate about creating those positive outcomes for our customers. And, I wouldn't have it any other way.
That is a brilliant story. And you're not the first person I've heard of who was in hospitality and met some people that they were hiring through employment services. But with your case, you then went into training and assessment in hospitality.
That's
and
right.
I'm guessing you met a few people in the industry.
Definitely, I did. I actually, my first boss at APM, I met through delivering those works programs, which is great. So At the time, APM had a few customers, that were participating in the program. And we had a bit of a graduation ceremony at the end of the course, the end of the program. And met my first boss there. So it was, it's been an interesting journey. I've really enjoyed it. And there's definitely skills that I learned in hospitality that I'm able to take across to what I do today.
Yeah, so many transferable skills. So the next, which ties into the next question, because I do want to know about your strategy as a leader for driving performance. So as a leader, what is your strategy for driving performance? And also what advice, so it's kind of two questions. The first one, your strategy, and the next one, the second part of the question is, what advice would you give to leaders who may have just started out?
Sure. Look, I think first and foremost, you need to love the work that you do to have a long and successful career in employment services. I believe that your passion will determine if you spend 3 months or 3 years in our industry. There's quite often when you're speaking to people that do work in employment services, they're either one or the two. They've either had a go at it and it wasn't for them, and that's fine, or they've had a go at it and they've loved it and they're still doing it. So when you think about some of our customers that come to our offices, quite often they present to us when they're at their most vulnerable. So it's really important that if your heart's not in the work that you immerse yourself in, really you're doing your customers a disservice. So first and foremost, passion is really important. And this not only rings true to staff on the front line, but also leaders within our industry. So as a leader, it's important that your team can see that you believe in the product that you're selling or the service that you're delivering, and that you have a passion for what you do. So, whenever we place a customer into work at APM, we celebrate it. It's one of those things that I'm really big on. So, in all my offices across my areas, we've got a big ship bell. So, whenever we secure an interview or someone commences employment, we get that customer to ring that bell. And look, that's one of the things that makes me smile and reminds me of the reason why I do what I do. But I think as a leader, it's important that you spend time with your team, empowering them. So I do this personally by providing a foundation and a structure that I know works through my experience as a consultant. Now, with that said, you have to keep in mind that it's not a one shape fits all type scenario. So particularly when you're working across regional areas, you need to adjust your strategy. But with that said, through all my time working as a consultant, working with a caseload and with employers, I can pin it down to a few key tasks that I used to do daily. And now I ensure that part of my strategy ensures that my staff are doing those key tasks daily as well. So, it's all well and good to be out there spending all your time marketing with employers, but if we don't work at the front end to build, as an example, your customers' capability or capacity, then, again, at the back end, and we're not doing that during that maintenance phase, during post-placement support, you really might be setting yourself up to fail. So basically across my team, across my area, we undertake 3 main activities daily. So, and this makes up part of my strategy. So firstly, we ensure that, as I mentioned before, building that capability, that capacity of our customers. And, you do this by firstly knowing your customer. And this is more than just understanding, how their disability has an impact on them gaining or maintaining employment, but, getting to know them as people, finding out what motivates them, how employment, can change their lives. Look, I think then second to that, it's really important that, within your business or, within employment services, that we are doing that engagement with employers. And that needs to be done daily. So, it's an activity that you can complete, both with your customers in the office, which is really important, but also on allocated days throughout the month. But it's got to be fun, especially for teams out there. The stresses of working towards KPIs are real. So, make it a fun activity, make a bit of friendly competition out of it. I think that, like in any sales type role, we need to enjoy the work that we do, because we're out there trying to create a need for our customer, who is the employer at the end of the day. So, making sure that you spend the time doing that activity. But lastly, and I think most importantly, one of the most important things we do within our business is, once we've placed our clients or our customers into work, is ensuring that we help them maintain their work. So regular contact during that post-placement support phase really is critical. It's crucial for our business. So, for some of our customers that have been long-term unemployed, or perhaps they're, returning to work after an absence due to, maybe an exacerbation of their medical condition, it can be overwhelming. So, spend that time, making contact with your customers, ensuring that they're supported, ensuring that the employers that we place them into are also feeling supported. And, that's one of the reasons why, I feel APM's been so successful, is because we place such a strong emphasis on that post-placement support phase.
Yeah, so I mean that's a brilliant answer you've given me. You've given a lot of great best practices that you do, and just to kind of emphasize on some points that you said, you obviously the advice you're giving is love the work that you do, and if it's not for you, then you're doing a disservice either for the job seekers, or even if you're a leader, you're doing a disservice for your team and the company that you're working for. So I like that as well. I love what you said about spend time empowering your team. And the best part for me was your little framework that you gave us, which is the daily, like the 3 kind of steps or 3 things that you do, which is number 1, ensure you're building the capabilities. Number 2, engaging with the employers, which is so important. And number 3 is you have to help them sustain that job. So thanks. That was a brilliant answer. Thank you, Tony. So I'm going to move on to the next question. What is one success story that you can think of where you and your team changed someone's life?
Definitely. I've got 2, if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
Because it is a question. Yeah, it is a question that I
probably have 10.
Yeah, look, it's one of those things. Having worked in the industry for a bit of time now, you see some of the great good news stories that come out of not only the offices that I've worked in or the teams that I've been a part of, but also the wider APM community. So, if you don't mind, I will highlight 2. One that comes to mind. That's a really good news story for me. I really enjoyed seeing this all unfold. Was a client of ours from our Mount Barker office in the Adelaide Hills. So this gentleman, his name is Guy. He's also had a published story, so I'm able to use his name. He's a 38-year-old man who was born with cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
He's non-verbal, but he finds a way to communicate with others in his own way, which is really great to see. As well as that, he's got a great sense of humour. So whenever I'm in the office and he's in there, he's a pleasure to work with and converse with. It's really good to see. Guy's always been a really active member of his community. He had a lot of his time mowing lawns, which he got paid a bit of money for, but it was never anything that was ongoing or consistent or sustainable. But it was obviously noted that he loved to get hands on, which was great. One of our consultants, Sarah, from the office, she worked closely with both Guy and his parents, and what they determined was one of the things that Guy needed and what he lacked was structure in his daily life, and we found that we could do this and I guess resolve this. One of the ways of resolving this was through ensuring that we got him into work and provided him with that structure of getting up each morning, going into a workplace and participating in the workforce. We work with him to develop his capability and his capacity. We put a number of supports in place for him to ensure that once we got him into something, that there was something in place for him. Mm-hmm. And as part of something called Accessibility Day last year, we made contact with several employers. So for those that aren't aware, Accessibility Day is it's a government Australian government initiative which allows employers to connect with job seekers with a disability who are actively registered with a disability employment service provider. And if they're looking to seek work, this is where they can get in to do some work experience for a day or two, and ensure that employers and others can see their potential in the workplace. So it's also a good opportunity that provides job seekers an insight into particular work or different types of jobs. So we were successful in creating an Accessibility Day placement for Guy, which he proved he was quite handy in the workshop, which was great. And it was then through this opportunity that we began to market Guy to local industrial businesses. So we use that as the platform. The work experience that he gained gave him the confidence to seek work in the area, and we were able to use that when we were speaking to some employers. Sarah was great with him. She made contact with an employer in our Strathalbyn area, mm-hmm. And the team were keen to give Guy a bit of a go. So he started with that employer. He completed his 4th week with that employer and came into the office and showed us his uniform. He was really excited. And, we've been speaking to Guy's employer, Alex, recently, and he's told us that he's so happy with the work that he's doing down there. What he finds is that the workplace is more productive when Guy's rostered on, which is great to see. Yeah. And the workshop team now, they fight over Guy.
Wow.
who he's going to help next. So his job list just continues to grow bigger by the day, which was a great outcome for him.
That is a great outcome. Thank you. And you also have another story, you said?
Yeah, I do. I just wanted to highlight one of the things that we're doing at APM. So the second story comes from a recent partnership that APM have made with the South Australian National Football League, or the SANFL. So we came on board as the naming rights sponsors, and we're really proud to support a league that's providing men in South Australia with an intellectual disability a chance to get involved in sport to increase their fitness and social participation. So one of APM's organisational visions is to enable better lives for our customers. And look, it's quite evident that employment is only one of the ways that we can, help people find meaning and fulfillment. What we also know is participation in things like sports, whether it's through playing or, being involved at a local club. Is another. So we got on board with the Inclusive League as it's a way to provide those living with a disability a chance to get a game of footy in a competition that's run by an organisation with the rich history that the SANFL has. So it was through that league and through our partnership that we met a gentleman by the name of Kane. Kane was fresh from his grand final win that he had 2 weekends ago at the Inclusive Grand Final. He approached us, wanted to gain some employment. And look, the team down at our Elizabeth office got to work straight away, and we were able to secure an interview within just 2 days. He then attended the interview with support from someone from the APM team, and started work just last Thursday. So he's over the moon. He's thrilled at commencing work. He's got a young family, so he's been looking to find work for a while now. And he just needed someone to give him a go. So he can't speak highly enough of how the Inclusive League has provided him with that structure in his life. It was getting up, each morning, getting ready for training on game day, heading out there, having a kick of the footy. And what we've been able to do through our program is, now give him some structure during the football off season. So, it's something that we're really proud to be involved in.
Wow, Well, thanks for sharing these two stories. I don't know which is, but I love them both. The first one about just that journey of the 30. You said he was a 30-year-old man with cerebral palsy.
Yes.
He wasn't very verbal. You said, right?
Non-verbal, yeah. So when he came into the office, we had to I guess tailor our approach to communicate with him. But with the support of his parents and his treating health professionals, we were able to overcome that barrier. And and it's the same now in his workplace.
Yeah, and so you were able to carve or create a job that specifically suits him and his needs, which is so important to kind of mention to people that don't understand about what job carving is, that disability employment services are able to get an individual and, find out what's not going on in your business, what your needs are, and then help you, help somebody into work. But obviously it's an advantage. It's a win-win for both you and that job seeker as well.
That's right. And I think it's really important. A big part of what we do when we're out there as employment practitioners is creating opportunities that, ordinarily didn't exist. I mean, there's going to be times where roles that are available may not just be suitable for your customers. So, getting out there and creating opportunities and as you mentioned, job carving is such an important part of our industry. Yeah,
definitely. And your partnership with, is it the Inclusive League?
Yeah, definitely. So our partnerships with the SANFL, the South Australian National Football League, and what we did was went in as naming rights sponsors of the Inclusive League. So as I mentioned, that's a league that provides individuals that have a intellectual disability or some sort of condition which doesn't allow them to participate in mainstream sports. So it's a great initiative. I went out to a few of the games this season, and it was fantastic to watch. It's really inspirational. The commitment the players have to getting out there and competing and teamwork and the respect for each other was great to watch. Yeah,
I've been following some of the photos on LinkedIn, so don't stop posting those.
No, I definitely won't.
Great initiative. So thanks for sharing that. What I'm going to ask you next is so for example, we get a lot of people in employment services that are just starting out, and they do get fearful about doing the sales and marketing side of things. So what advice would you give somebody who is just starting out, which is an employment consultant or a reverse marketer, that is fearful of going out there and marketing their job seekers?
Yeah, look, I think it's a really interesting question that you asked because, I remember when I first started in the industry, that was definitely something that I was fearful of, was getting out there and speaking to employers. I think the easiest way to overcome that fear is by knowing your customer. So, knowledge really is key in our industry, and it's the best way to build your confidence in your marketing. And when I say knowing your customer, it's more than just knowing their situation and their disability. As an employment consultant, as I learnt the ropes and as I progressed through my role, I would start to spend more and more time learning my customers' previous work experience and their work history. When you're out in front of employers, if you can articulate their employment timeline and I guess sound confident in that, it's definitely one thing that will give you that advantage against everyone else. So, as well as that, know your service. So, if you are working for a provider, know what service you provide, know what your point of difference is as well. As you can imagine, there's a number of providers out there, trying to secure the same business. And, if you are out there speaking to employers, what is your point of difference? Be able to articulate that as well. Once again, if you go in prepared and you can sell your service and everything that comes with it, you're going to be more successful. I think as well, some advice around those that undertake phone marketing, and this is something that I share with my team and we talk about quite frequently as well. Use this time to set up times to meet with business owners, or employers. I mean, you've worked in sales for many years, Rana. You'd know there's only that short window to gain the employer or the business owner's attention. So, use it to explain. Don't use it to explain everything about your service, but instead, try and show them how you can make their life easier as a business owner. And then when you're out there face to face with that employer, that's when you can go into the specifics of your service.
Yeah, definitely. The phone is not the time to, especially because you're doing B2B. So there's a lot of stake, there's huge wages and things like that you have to negotiate. So I like some of the key points that you said, like just to recap, just for anyone that's listening. So some of the highlights from what you said is know your customer, which is knowledge is power, understand previous work experience, know the services that you're offering, understand your point of difference because there's a lot of competition, and do go in prepared. And the best, I like how you said, the phone is just to kind of get that introduction, but to get that face-to-face, because nothing beats face-to-face. Like even when people message me on LinkedIn asking about my services, it's so easy for me to say, hey, this is my service, and send them all information. I just say, what's your phone number? What's the best time to talk? I don't ever give them any information, even through text, because I find that if they're really serious, they'd want to talk to me, right? I'm not saying not to send information sometimes, like, you know what's right for you.
Of course not. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And I think you hit the nail on the head before when you mentioned, the phone is I guess that initial conversation you have is an introduction. Use it as that. It's important that then if you're going to go into the more specifics around your business and what it is that you're trying to achieve, that you take the time to go out there and speak to the employer face to face, or create a follow-up phone call for that.
Definitely. And one thing also, it's a time to find out about them as well. So it is definitely the time to find out the phone. Like it's the research phase as well.
Definitely.
Okay, so thanks for that. That's great for anyone that's starting out. Some great advice there. And I mean, you've worked on the front line as well yourself, so you've had that first-hand experience. You're not a manager that tells people, hey, get on the phone, but you've never done it yourself, which I think a lot of people on the front line do respect that as well. But I mean, there's people that have come from different industries that have done sales as well, so, and they've gone into management. So yeah, I think the experience is transferable. So I just want to know, what are some myths? This is a question I ask often on these podcasts. Like, what are some myths and misconceptions about people with disabilities in the workplace?
Yeah, look, and it's one of those questions that you hear quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look, it's something that I like to discuss with my team frequently too, because as we're all aware, these are the type of things that will come up. These are some of the barriers that potentially are put up. So it's important that we have responses to them.
Yeah.
I think, one of the most important things that we can do as employment practitioners is educate others on the benefits of employing someone with a disability. So, look, as we know, 1 in 5 people in Australia live with disability. But what that translates to is that, potentially 1 in 5 employees within a business can successfully maintain their employment whilst managing their condition. So I think it's very important to be very clear on that. What we also know is that people with a disability have a broad range of skills and capabilities, and it makes good business sense to employ people with a disability. And, evidence has shown that they tend to take less sick days. People with a disability build strong relationships with customers. They also boost workplace morale and enhance teamwork. So in terms of misconceptions, I think one of the most common ones that I've come up against is, around, that misconception that workers' compensation costs will increase, due to hiring people with a disability, and that people with a disability will have more accidents at work. And look, whether an employer employs people with a disability or not, it really is irrelevant to the calculation of insurance premiums. I think it's really important that business owners have an understanding of that. Premiums are based on accidents at work, and not on characteristics of particular groups of employees. So, if you do come up against this misconception, use this time to talk about this point, and educate employees wherever possible. And, hopefully if we all play our part, we can start to see these misconceptions disappear.
100%. And I love how you said how 1 in 5 people that run a business, just to clarify, is that we said have a disability? Could have a disability.
So one in 5 Australians have a disability. So, and what that means is that potentially 1 in 5 employees could, potentially...
Oh, employees. Okay, yeah. And they're still able to...
maintain their work. Yeah.
Maintain their work, definitely.
Whilst managing their conditions. So it is possible.
Okay. And I mean, the boost morale, taking their sick days, there's been studies that have been done on this. So any employer or HR manager that's listening, you can look that information up and it's there. These are facts. And the compensation part as well, that's all online as well. So thanks for sharing that as well. Thank you. Because it's so important to know this stuff, and it's things that just because it's a myth. So it's spread around. And I've had a lot of employers myself tell me that, what about compensation? What about insurance, accidents, things like that? And then I used to have this little fact sheet that I used to give them, which kind of busted all the myths, even before sometimes they came up with these myths.
That's great.
Like this. So, and the key point you mentioned is education. So our job as employment practitioners, the first step is to educate and raise awareness. And then the next step is to obviously market and sell. But you can't just go market and sell if there's no awareness happening.
That's correct.
All right. So, Tony, I'm going to ask you, this is my last question. And I want to know, what do you wish that you had known when you first started out in this industry?
That's a really interesting one because, when I sit back and reflect on my time in employment services, there's definitely lessons that I've learned throughout my journey. So I think, look, as we know, the success and sustainability of a provider in employment services really is dependent on good results. So, star ratings, they are crucial to our success. And it's important that providers have a positive impact on those, through those successful employment placements.
Yeah.
So, such things as KPIs, which, all providers have, whether they be individual or team-based, they're really important. But an employment outcome will only be achieved if the job itself is sustainable and is suitable for that customer. So I guess if I could go back in time, I'd spend more time, during my time as a consultant, during that initial phase of the program. Take time to work with your customer, gain their buy-in to the program. Understand what motivates them. And I guess, important to that, establish their reason why. Why is work so important to them? I think if you can gain an understanding of how their disability actually has an impact to them maintaining work, and then put supports in place, and also outsource these as well. I mean, obviously we're not experts in all these fields. So head out to the community organisations, get to know them and find out what supports they can provide as well. If we do that research in the front end and we provide, the supports to our customers and they trust us, when we get them into work, we're going to be getting them into work that is suitable for them. It is sustainable. And, when there's employment placements come, and they will come from that, they're going to be quality placements that are going to be ongoing. So I think for anyone that's starting out in the industry, or that, perhaps is in the industry and is thinking about how they can better adjust their servicing model to impact their results, I think there's some key points there to keep in mind.
Yeah, definitely. So just to recap on some of the things that you said, that the success does depend on the results, the star ratings, the KPIs. And I loved what you said about employment outcome is only achieved if it's sustainable for that customer, which a lot of us, when we first start, we don't really realize that. We're just trying to push people into jobs. And I've done it myself, especially in the UK. Like, it's very... get people into jobs when I worked there. Get to know your customer, get their buy-in. I love that. And understand their why, which is so important as well. And do outsource. There's a lot of support out there. Even employability skills support, psychology. There's people out there helping you. You don't have to do everything yourself. Because I've seen employment consultants that want to do everything themselves. They want to be the psychologist. They want to do everything when they had somebody that could help them even with, say, it's your job to help them with interview techniques, but say you had somebody coming in to be a volunteer for that, but you want to do that yourself, why would you do that? So
that's right. And it's really important that you do outsource some of those supports as well. Even if you've got a bit of training in that area, it's really important that, and I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way, but stay in your lane. We are the employment experts. I
like that. No, it's not.
That we provide that service to our customers, and anything else that they need support with, we go out there and source for them.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, do stay in your lane. And sometimes even if it's your lane and you can get that support, do it. Because sometimes, like someone like me, I have to control everything and I don't let go, because sometimes I might not trust other people, but it's so important just to let go and trust that. And, as a leader, sometimes you want to do everything, but then you can get your team to support you as well. All right. So Tony, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. I have learned so much just listening to you. You're brilliant. And I personally think APM is very lucky to have you there. And you're lucky to work for them because they're a great company as well. So thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
I just wanted to ask Tony, if anyone wanted to find you or get in contact with you or find more about APM, where can they go?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm on LinkedIn. My full name, Tony Cavallaro, on LinkedIn. You'll be able to find me there. But if you wanted to make contact with APM, you can go to our website, which is apm.net.au, as well as any employers that wanted to make contact to discuss, staffing requirements. 1-800-276-276. So we've got a number of offices across Australia, and hopefully we're in your area as well. So make contact. We'd love to have a chat.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Rana.